Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to watch this video about the new moon in Libra. My name is Alejandra. This is Wildflowers Within, and I'm just super excited to welcome you here. If you are here for the first time, welcome. And just to give a plug in, if you're a woman who is looking to align herself to lunar wisdom, who wants to learn how to plant new moon seeds and work with the energies when it's also a full moon, I invite you to check one of the links below about my Lunar Alchemy Circle. It is an online community of women. We come together for sacred breathwork ceremonies on new moons and full moons. And if that interests you, you are more than invited to check it out. So, I would like to first talk about this lunation by taking a step back. New moon in Libra. And what does this mean? I have some notes and I'll get to those in a second. But I first wanted to start by speaking and asking all of you who are watching, what does beauty mean to you? What is beauty? How does it look? How is it represented in your life or philosophically? Because that is the essence of what we need to tap into in order to understand the intentional prayer that we will be planting within this gorgeous Venusian temple. We are in now the dark half of the year, at least from a Northern Hemisphere perspective. And the dark half of the year is yin energy, it's feminine energy. And, you know, feminine dark magic can hold chaos. And this is a time where archetypally we are asked to turn within and begin to look inside for deeper truth, right? Libra happens right after the equinox. And so, metaphorically speaking, there's a death that has taken place as we go into the underworld. And when we immediately go into the underworld, like when we cross, and if you believe in, heaven or some next gate that we're going to have to evaluate how our life was lived. And so Libra is associated with now the entering of this dark half of the year where we start to look back and how did we live what we did, And obviously it's ruled by Venus because it wants to be beautiful. We want to have a good, well-lived life of beauty and harmony and justice and liberation, right? So asking yourself, what does beauty mean to you? Beauty for me, I mean, visually, I can look out at our planet. I can look out at Mother Earth, and she takes my breath away. Beauty is that moment where I am so caught up in how gorgeous either aesthetically something looks outside or a feeling of peace within me or something that I'm proud of, maybe an accomplishment that took a lot of courage, or I've done deep shadow work and I've pulled out a gem, from all of that hard labor. That to me is beautiful. And when we also think about beauty, we also need to think about, well, what's not beautiful? Because that's also going to give us an indication of what is, right? So when I look at, I went to a safari a long time ago, years ago, and we were out in the, African plains, and seeing nature and seeing the animals was amazing. But I also saw a lot of violence, being out in the wilderness, you get to see animals just in their pure existence. And, we go to the market to buy chicken or, buy the hamburger meat, but we don't actually see the process of death that needs to take place in order for that to be delivered to our table, right? And in the wilderness, in the safari, you just see it. You just see it happening. And for me, that immediately is like, it assaults my senses, but not because I think it's beautiful, because it feels like the opposite to me. It feels harsh. It feels like I don't know where to put this in my heart, you know? And what I love about Libra, and I love that it exalts Saturn, because anytime Saturn comes in, Saturn is that when, your brow goes up and you start to question, you start to apply discernment. Do I like this? Do I not like this? I don't know. I need to find it. That's Saturn sitting in the middle of this temple, right? Exalted, right? There's pictures of Saturn, like, the great master teacher. And we exalt the planet Saturn in Venus because of this ability to be in the middle and hold the boundary between what is and what is not, right? It is that fine line, the liminal space, the dividing factor that puts things on one side or the other. So understanding this and really thinking, when you think about a person who gives a lot, I think a lot about kindness as beautiful. There is, oh my God, like kindness is so needed in our world right now, right? At least that's what I feel in my heart. And when I see an act of kindness, it's like, that's really sweet. Now, can kindness also be a shadow? Well, when I think about someone who is just an overgiver, people pleasing, that's something you hear a lot about, a shadow in the temple of Libra. Someone who gives and gives and gives. And yes, they are kind. And yes, it is out of the goodness of their heart. But maybe underneath it, there's a wound that if they are not able to contribute, then they will not be loved or they will not be valued. Is that beautiful? If the eyebrow goes up, I'm bringing Saturn in to help me with this discernment. Maybe that's not so beautiful underneath it. So Libra deals with that, the superficiality, what is authentic and what is veneer. And so as we think about planting new moon seeds within this temple, start to really, well, we're asked now to start to look at our life in terms of this lens, right? It is a comparison of how everything else is in our life that we are in relationship with our finances, within our health, within our spirituality, with our family, with our lovers, with our children, with our career, you know, with our self-worth, with our self-talk. All of this is being asked to be analyzed and to be brought in with discernment. So with that being said, I wanted to just give a couple of examples, of what Libra, of how we can find that beauty and hold space for it to figure out what it is we'd like to plant within this temple at this time. And one of the things that Libra asks us to do is presence. If you've ever tried to measure something, right, there needs to be a stillness. And, you're like, take it like as actual scales, pouring something on, right? You can't be pouring it on with an earthquake happening in the background. Why? You're never going to get a good reading. So the only way to come in is to be present, right? And feel that moment through a direct experience of presence, right? So beauty can be like held in the form of an idea, but if it is not directly experienced, then we're never really going to understand what it means. So vanity, right, is something that can be seen as a lens of a life experience for someone, right? But what happens is vanity can turn into a performance. It's a performance-based lifestyle. And, when you think about, like, you go to a restaurant and, let's say there's a woman who, not a woman, I'm not going to blame the women. Let's just say there is a person, there is a human being, an individual that is so obsessed with taking the right, like, selfie of her food, right? The right picture of her plate. And meanwhile, there's people around and she's not necessarily fully engaged or present in discussion because she wants to, like, really get that right. And so let's say she finally has it, but all of a sudden she's missed out on this time of being present with her friends. Or, couples that go and, they're on their phones the whole time. But then the waiter comes and it's like, oh, can you take a picture of us? And all of a sudden it's turned on and they turn and they have a picture and then they post it on social media. And that's the experience that we think they've lived when actually it wasn't. Right. So there's going to be a lot of like really allowing us to understand what does it mean to be present in our life and understand if it's something that we want to continue to experience. I hope that makes sense. I had this when I was writing out these things, this memory of the book Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. It was an audiobook that I listened to years ago. And for whatever reason, like a core memory burned into my brain was when he talked about being present and he compared it to Van Gogh and the painting of that chair. And he had like a really cool accent, which to me is very attractive. I find accents very, his was like the chair. I don't think he said chair. I think he said chair. He looked and he looked and he looked and it wasn't just a chair. He wanted to see the chair. You know, that's my Eckhart Tolle. If it doesn't like ring true for you, that's fine. If that was not a beautiful accent, that's great, right? Discernment coming in. But that's how I remember it. And I thought, wow, yeah, Van Gogh, he was like, he didn't just paint a chair, but there was this ability to sit and to look so deeply into the soul of the chair to then paint this masterpiece. So we are asked to bring in presence in a really big way as we begin to decipher what kinds of things we would want to plant within this temple. Okay, so that's the first one I wanted to give as an example. The second one is what parts of your life do you feel like you are consciously choosing, or parts of your life coming into question now that feel more performative, but not necessarily like the example with the Instagram. It's more like, can beauty comes out of a place of authenticity within you. And let's say you are, I'm going to actually give an example that I think it's part of my example of my spiritual awakening. I had the most amazing life before I spiritually broke open. I had a beautiful, I still have a beautiful family, right? Mom, dad, not like children or a marriage or anything like that, but like my core family from which I come from. They are beautiful and we all have a beautiful relationship with one another. We worked hard at it too. Very uncomfortable moments of growth, but really, really happy for all the work I've done. And at the time, I was the executive director of an incredible nonprofit, right? We helped girls get into college, be the first in their families to get in college. And it was a mentoring component. So these young girls throughout Los Angeles were meeting up with professional women who were taking them around their city and showing them their lens of living in Los Angeles, and it was so amazing. I remember I got to take my mentee to the ballet for the first time. I come from a dance background, and it was so adorable. She didn't know that they didn't speak in ballet. She leaned over and was like, "Are they going to talk?" And I thought it was like, "Oh my God, this is like the cutest thing I've ever heard." And to me, it was like unconscionable that she didn't know this, but that was her reality. And so the expansion that took place by women and girls coming together and for us to see their world as well, not just for them to see ours, but for us to be expanded to see their world was beautiful. Okay. Everybody was like, I had a great job. We did, really good fundraising and all the things. And then I go to Brazil and, sit, in ceremony, totally unexpected, did not picture that, plant medicine was waiting for me down there. And all of a sudden, this higher wisdom coming through, showing me that even though all of that looked good, it really was just a checklist of what does society think is beautiful? Check. Yeah, good job. Yep. Live at a great house. Yep. Great family. All these things. But did I consciously choose it? Or did I choose it? Did I choose it because that's what I was supposed to do? That was the path and the route that all of society was, holding up as ideal, and I was aspiring to live it, but was it really connected to the deepest part of me? And I'm going to be honest, I was a commercial real estate broker. Can you believe that? I can't even believe that. It feels like another lifetime ago. And at a networking event is when I heard about this organization for the first time. And a woman gave me her card, and she was recruiting mentors to mentor girls. And even though it was an immediate yes, there was not, what I realized years later is there was not a place deep within me that was already proactively searching for it. Something landed on my lap, sounded good, and I said yes. And by the way, I don't regret any of it. But, then when I'm, breaking open and I'm realizing I'm burnt out, nonprofit is blood, sweat, and tears, right? And I had been almost 15 years in service, giving and giving and giving and giving. And I was exhausted. And my soul was deeply craving something else. It was a huge wake up moment for me to learn about living life as a choice of how really tuning into my soul. Do I want to live for me? And how does that look now in my relationship with what I need to create with others for my own harmony and balance inside? So, the superficiality, that life, it can numb our capacity to choose. Think about that. Like, it was so good. It was so cushioned. I didn't even know that there were other choices. I was completely numb to them, right? So in this moment, and I'll tell you the aspects why, but we're really starting to look within and deeply discern. Saturn's coming in, right? The Chihuahua ear or the quizzical brow, whatever metaphor you want to use to have it. That's what's coming in right now to ask us, what is it you want to plant, babe? What's beauty to you now? What does it mean to you? So, by the way, I love that I did the work that I did, but now I know, like, I'm on a deeper path, and I will still give back when I feel the call. Now it's about sitting with my own intuition and guidance and listening to my heart, and where does it feel called? That to me is beauty, right? So I wanted to uh, also speak about one last thing, and it is the reflection of our soul as this place of divine harmony between who we are, between what we do, and between what we love. Because right now, from my perspective, I think humanity is completely out of touch with its true essence. Completely. I think we are a society of such over medicated, overly diagnosed, deficient of nature, deficient of ceremony, deficient of devotion, deficient of kindness, deficient of stillness. My God, the stillness that is needed for all of us to come back into balance. It's a deep prayer. It's a deep prayer of something that we really get to experience, right? To bring peace back, to bring gratitude back. And so in this moment of discerning what is no longer true for us, right? How can something fade away so that a new, deeper, I want to say a new truth can emerge, but really it's just the actual truth can emerge of who we are, right? If all our beauty is just cosmetic, if it's all about just looking thin, if it's all about, I don't know, having the best career or getting paid the best in life, I don't know. Where is your soul in that equation? Where is the harmony of your soul? Where is the beauty, the wildflowers within radiating from you to tell me that's authentic? Whatever you're teaching, preaching, living, doing, that, if I see wildflowers of your purest, cleanest prayers, deepest heart shining, that's beauty. So, what parts of you have been silenced in the sake of, keeping it together, of keeping up with the Joneses, right? In order for you to be seen in a certain way. And how disconnected are you from your essence because of it? I know that path very well. And by the way, it's still a work in progress. I will share, one thing about Libra being performative, sometimes just like I think of the Lady Gaga song, the applause, applause, applause. I live for the applause, applause. Yeah, I love that song. I could get down to that song. I remember like a couple years ago, I don't know, I made some video, um, and it got like over 1,000 views on YouTube. And look, I know that's not like a lot to many people, but for me, it was a lot, I always joked like self-deprecating jokes of like, thank you, 5 people that are watching, and maybe just 5 will, and maybe I can find beauty in that, but when that happened and I hit 1,000, something immediately turned on of like, oh my God, now I need to perform. Now more people are coming and this is serious. And so I remember the next video I made, I was so nervous. And it was like, it felt so much more performative. Oh God, I cringe now thinking. And the funniest thing is like, it was like a fluke. It was one time I got over 1,000 views. And like the next one was like, I don't know, 75. I don't even know. I'm making that number up, but it was low. It was much, much lower. Right. And I could tell that my nervous system, what that was feedback for me was, I am making it about me and not making it about the devotion, you know? Like I can like almost cry thinking about, I love lunar wisdom and the rhythm of being able to plant a new moon seed, to energetically carry a prayer within me, within my full garden. That is what I want to transmit at the deepest level of my soul to you, beautiful person watching this video. I don't want to, yes, would I like to be entertaining? Yeah, because that's beautiful too, right? All of these things come into question. But if you can't feel my devotion, then I'm just going to come off flat. And that, Lord knows we have that in the world. I don't want to be that space. I want my heart to be seen. I have a Libra moon. I've also got it conjunct Pluto. So it's pretty intense, I'm just going to say. There's lots of soul power in the emotions that I can emit, that I can emote. Um, but and even though I'll be honest, I do love applause. What I want is really to just touch your heart. I just want that place to be awakened within you, because that to me is true beauty. So now that I'm crying and like, I don't know why I got so emotional. I just hope you can see the difference between performance and, and really being, really living, really being fully aligned with the truth of who you are, right? And so that's going to come into play. And there's a lot of deep shadow work going around right now in the collective because of a couple of things. And I wanted to bring up these astrological pieces. Mercury and Mars are not aspecting this new moon at all, but Mars as the ruler of the last lunation, the full moon in Aries, and the next new lunation, the new moon in Scorpio, Mars energy is sandwiching this new moon seed, right? And that there's a loud presence of activity, the need to take action. And with Mercury coming in and conjoining Mars, they're meeting up together. You're having like a little, secret conversation going on right now in Scorpio, a day before this new moon. It means that the feeling of like deep truths are really coming to the surface, right? And, Mars, Mercury together, sharpening of the mind, sharpening of the investigative potential that, especially in something deep like Scorpio, the intuition, the psychic ability that can rise at this time through your own knowing, the downloads that you're receiving when you get into that place of stillness are going to influence what Venus is determining she needs to plant now in this temple. So relationship dynamics that have been kept hidden, truths, deep truths can start to come out and reveal itself because it's time. Another reason that shadow work might be coming up in a big way for you is, or maybe that a lot of confrontation, whatever it is, drama, yeah, that is coming up. There's breadcrumbs to follow in there. And because now, anytime a planet enters the sign of Libra, it immediately trines Pluto, right? So Venus, a week ago, before this new moon, she entered her temple of Libra after being in her fall in Virgo, after going through eclipses, rocking the Pisces Virgo axis. And she steps into Libra and immediately, trines Pluto. And so it suggests that that Venus, there's a doorway and a threshold now that sets the stage for deeper shifts in how we relate, how we perceive value and beauty and connection with everything that we come in contact into life, including our own self and our own self-talk. So the shadow of vanity or superficiality, like we spoke of, can be coming up to the surface in a really big way as a process of transformation with this new moon, right? That a seed of something more authentic needs to be planted within your soil. So think about that. What is coming up to the surface with that? And Venus has incredible dignity in Libra, right? Her strength, her presence. And what makes it even more so is she's not aspecting anybody else. The sun and the moon are very late in the temple, and within a couple days, they're gone. And it's just Venus in her home. So what that means, imagine, what does it feel like when all the responsibilities of taking care of other people are done and you're allowed to be at your home and just do you? And you're in the temple that is like designed to perfection of how you get back to finding your center. That's a moment where Venus has right now to take this time and get back to it, right? She's isolated, she's unafflicted by other major connections, right? So it suggests a pause and a stillness for Venus, which is perfect because, as we discussed, like that's exactly what she needs to plant this new moon seed in her temple. So now the work is, to be internalizing. Pluto asks us to transform from within. So what does this change? What is this revolution, right? This transformation deep inside look for me in my values and in relating to the people I hold dear? How to see your relationships, and what is really going to matter going forward. So things that you should look out for with this new moon is unspoken truths coming to light, long avoided topics, you know, might be resurfacing. There's going to be, I can foresee, a lot of relationship tension and boundaries, conversations about boundaries, conversations about justice and our inner designs that, that we haven't really dealt with, that can no longer be unacknowledged, right? What truth is asking to be voiced so harmony can be restored. And, with this speaking your truth, right? Mars and Mercury can be very combative right now in Scorpio. And we need to be careful of that reactionary language when we immediately like, I need to, fight for this. And with Venus and Libra, I think there's I'm going to be optimistic about it and say there is a level of diplomacy, a level of tact that we can search for right now within ourselves to be able to speak our truth in a way that invites understanding rather than builds up, rather than pushes the defense mechanism in the other person as soon as the topic comes up. So these are all things to think about. I'd love to know what people are, what's coming into your life right now. How do you see your relationships and the dynamics playing out? And what new moon seeds of intentions are you planting, that relate to this harmony and coming into stillness for truth, justice, and also a big question, how does kindness come in? I think kindness is one of the key variables when you're setting in this intention to plant a seed within this temple. Venus being kind to herself as she's taken some self-care time. Kindness and how she thinks of maybe breaking off or restructuring or calling in new relationships of all kinds. Kindness. It ain't just a word in the dictionary. So I hope that helps. If you'd like to get an astrology reading with me, if you'd like to buy my beautiful blessed jewelry, if you are a woman who is a survivor of sexual assault and trauma, looking to heal, I have a new offering that's coming out called the Liberated Survivor Ceremony. I think the sun going into Scorpio, it's like perfect time to do shadow work. And with all these groundwater trines coming up, there's such good things on the horizon. So I hope you're excited about it. I'm sending lots of love to everybody. And again, if you want to come breathe with us in the Lunar Alchemy Circle, the links and all of that are below. So take care and I'll see you soon. Ciao.